Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'll be showing you guys a game that I played. So this was a rapid game, so 15 minutes, 10-second increment, and I went for d4. Opponent played e6. So I went for London here. In this position you can go either for c4, but as you guys may or may not have seen in the first video, I'm currently a London player. I used to play e4, but currently I've been playing a lot of London systems recently. Anyways, I went bishop f4 and opponent played c5. And now this is a very tricky line because black has a lot of queen b6 ideas, putting a lot of pressure on b2. And this is a tough spot. So here I went into a bit of a think because this is not a variation I often encounter at my current elo. But so top computer move I looked after the game is actually b3 in this position, but I did not know this. I have gone up against this. Oh, I forgot to mention, I went e3 and then he went queen b6, and then here I took a bit of a think. So e3 is correct, and then queen b6, and then oh okay. So I went knight f3 here, and my idea was to gambit the pawn, and to try to get some initiative after knight d2. And as we'll see later, I did get a lot of initiative. And if you're gonna take on b2, you should really know your line as black. And yeah, so it's very easy to blunder for both sides. These are very, very dynamic positions because there are just so many ideas in this position. And yeah, yeah, okay. So here I went for he took, and then I took back with the knight here. And so I didn't take back with I took back with the knight here because I thought that taking back with the pawn might have been a little awkward because the pawn might have been weak, because c3 is hard to play because the queen is that square is undefended and the queen could just capture the pawn. So I took with the knight, and also there's another hidden idea here, and that's knight b5 is a very strong idea, which kind of resembles a Jobava London system. So teaming up with the bishop, so queen can't take, and you're threatening to win the exchange here. So yeah, so I took with the knight for both those reasons. So opponent went knight f6, which, as the computer is saying, was a blunder. And in this position, I played knight b5, as I was just mentioning before. And then here, opponent had to go knight d5 to guard and to counterattack the bishop. But opponent went knight a6, which is an inaccuracy because I have some ideas of capturing later, ruining the pawn structure. But here I played what I thought was a really nice move with a few ideas. So as you guys can see, both these squares are very weak and the bishop and the knight are controlling them. So the move I played here was actually knight c4, which I thought was a very clever move. Okay, so I went knight c4, and then if black takes on b5 here, you have this very nasty move, which is a discovery, and you win the queen. So black can't take on b5 in this position. So I thought this was a very clever move because now my idea was just to control this square. I had come in terms with the realization that I would not be able to win the exchange here. But if I can land a piece on d6 and prevent the king from castling either with the bishop, with having a super strong bishop here, or with one of the knights by forcing the king to move, I thought I'd be way better, and I am. I'm +2 in this position. And then opponent went queen b4, and so here I didn't go back. I went c3 because the knight guards the pawn, and then he went here, so queen c5, and then I went for my idea. I played knight cd6, and he took. And then here the best move was to take with the bishop, but I took with the knight, which loses a bit of the advantage. And the reason for that is because the bishop always has to keep an eye on the knight, and the bishop always has to keep an eye on the knight, because once the king comes up, now there's two attackers, so both of my pieces are kind of stuck staring here, right? But here I blundered. So, and we'll see the reason why I take with the bishop was better, because here I would have to find an extremely hard move to find, and that move is queen b3. I'll explain after why queen b3 was the right move, but I went queen d2, which is a blunder because now black can get some really nasty pressure and win some material. So it starts with e5. So opponent found the move e5, and then I don't. So see, so the bishop's hanging and the knight's hanging here. So there's nothing better to do but to take. And then after rook takes, this pawn right here is also hanging, and the bishop is hanging. So I went bishop g3 here. But now opponent plays an even better move than taking right away. He goes knight e4, so forking my bishop and my queen. And so here I took a long think here, and I took a long think here, but you guys can see that there's just a lot of pressure on my position here, and like there's three attackers on the pawn, queen's hanging, bishop is attacked, like there's just so much pressure here. So I completely missed e5. But so the reason why queen d2 was a blunder, so the best move here by the computer is queen b3, which is very hard to spot, and let me remember why. Oh yes, so now after e5, you can't take away because then king takes and then black is winning, but you have this move rook d1, and then if takes, now you have takes and the king has one square here, and apparently this is fine. White is down a piece, but black's king is just horrible when the white pieces are just swarming. Like let's say there's an idea to take here because no, there isn't, but this position is very good for this position would be very good for me, but I didn't see that. So this was a very difficult position, I guess. What I should have done here was maybe I could have played something on bishop g5 or bishop g3, and then now on e5. I guess you can still go e5, so then maybe I just needed to back out here. Maybe I needed to play just knight c4, and then and then white is still much better, as we can see on the eval here. Oh no, it's equal. Okay, this is interesting. Takes. Is there no move but queen b3? Okay, queen b3 was incredibly hard to see, and I would have probably just dropped back here if I saw e5, but then white loses all the advantage here, and yeah, I mean it's only +1 after knight takes, so I guess you really had to take with the bishop. So I guess that was my first mistake. I had to take with the bishop here, because actually the king is pretty safe on e7, and then this sequence is just really tough. Now there's just way too much pressure on my position, and then opponent went knight e4, and then I played queen d3 here. I was in deep thought because I thought I really wasn't comfortable in this position. I went queen to d3, and the idea was to hit the knight and keep the pressure on the diagonal, keep an eye on the pawn, and then he took here, which was a bad move. I was definitely happy when I saw this. This is a big blunder here. It gives away almost all of the advantage, because I have takes, And then what I should have played here was takes. And then after something like, let's turn on the engine, after something like, engine says rook c6, but I think a move like, maybe even getting in here. Oh no, this runs into a fork, so, but I think a more natural move, let's just say, yeah, so, okay. So I took, and let's just say he was to draw back here, or go here to try to, no. If you just draw back, let's say. So here I can probably like takes, ruining the structure, which is why he had to go knight c4 earlier in the game. Or no, it was knight d5 to guard the square, so that, because now the knight on e6 was just a target for my bishop, and these pawns are really bad. And then here I would be pretty happy. This is most likely a draw because black's up a pawn, but pawn is pretty meaningless, and I have a better structure. This pawn is weak as well, so this would have probably most likely been a draw. But what I did here is I did a big mistake, which is sold the entire game. So up to here it was really bad. Trading was bad. He gave me another chance to equalize, but I threw the game away here. And after knight takes, I had to take back. I had to take the knight here, because if you take the knight, structure's ruined, and you do get a pawn. I do get a pawn here, and black is up a pawn, but I have some double pawns here, and just black has a lot of pressure and a lot of dangerous ideas, but here I played a horrible move, and instead of taking the knight, I took the pawn. And now this just allows black to activate his rook and to just completely paralyze my position. So after this and takes, I played this, and I do regain the pawn. And material is now equal. Remember, I was down 2 pawns a few moves ago. I was down 2 pawns here. So I thought I was getting my pawns back, and I was happy. Essentially, I saw if takes, I saw all of this, and then I thought that I was winning my pawn. But then what I failed to see was that there's just... So he went here to save his pawn first, but then he eventually brought the rook to the second rank, and there's just too much pressure on my position here, and his rooks are way too active, and my rook is not really part of the game anymore. So I went rook d2, and then he went here, and then takes. So now he gave me a little bit of chances here. I thought I was doing okay here. After takes a4, and then he went here, and I went rook h4. I thought I was holding the game together, and I could probably get a draw here. But the big issue here is that the rook seals my king from entering the game. So let's just say my king was on d3. This is most likely a draw, because I can just bring the king here and kind of... no. But let's say my king was more active, right? If my king was closer to the pawn, I could guard the pawn with the king and then start to target some pieces in the black position, some pawns, and then I could probably get a draw. But because my king is cut off here, this is just a lot of pressure, and it's very hard to deal with. So opponent went a5, and then here I played rook c4. So this move has a few ideas. Well, quite frankly, yeah. So, I mean, I just went rook c4, yeah, and then e6, and here I played f4. I should note that I was low on time here. I had 30 seconds on the clock here. I went f4, and then opponent went king d5. I targeted his pawn, and then he took my pawn, which gets me right back in the game. But then I took, and then I went back here, which I apparently had to go behind the pawn, because if I stay behind the pawn, well, black, his rook has to stay here, and then I have time to bring my king, right? But it's probably still losing because black is just faster to get to my pawns. But essentially, this is just a really painful endgame. I went rook d2, and I was low on time too. Opponent had been playing pretty fast. He took here though, which is, this is just a pure draw. But black is an outside passer, so from a human perspective, this is, black can definitely play for a win here. But then, so here I was feeling fine. But then I played a big blunder here, which is g4. And I don't quite understand why g4 is such a big blunder. Because you can just push. So he pushes. Okay, I don't really understand. Maybe because he can target my pawns with his rook. Anyways, I went g4, which computer says is a terrible blunder. Then I went king f3. I was just low on time. This is obviously a horrible move. Why would I get away from the passed pawn? And then just low on time here, and I went rook a2. He gave me some chances, but then I just blundered a pawn, and this is just lost. Like, he has. So, opponent definitely didn't convert this perfectly, but overall, this was a pretty nice game for my opponent. Like, if I turned off the engine, like, this is a great game for my opponent. He played a great game. Congrats to him. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this was an instructive game.